Hey, Rayo? Oh, who are you? Get better! Thank you to our final patrons, Redwolf4765, Midnight Gemlord, and Sean. Thank you to our $3 members, Recliner Plays and Redwolf4765, and a very big thank you to our $25 patron, Alex Ice Rose. Before we have this discussion on Rayo and how his character reversion really disappoints me, please go ahead and leave your own thoughts on Rayo in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also hit that little notification to miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also I do a page down below, each one videos as one, get them one down month, exclusive videos, early content, and more. It will now become unbearably channel for as 3 month to get the same perks and more. Now, let's hop into the discussion. What's up guys, Hunter here, and here we are to talk about Rayo. Rayo. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. Extremely disappointed. But why? Why? Right? Like, what is it about Rayo that has me so disappointed that I'm just so sad, I'm so unhappy, and he's never necessarily been a character I've been fond of, and he's just progressively gotten worse. I haven't started to like him more. Actually, you know what? Rayo has a very complicated journey. So let's start at the beginning. Unfortunately, unlike Nagi, who had a much more neutral introduction, Rayo just had a negative introduction to me. Like, of course, I read the original manga first at the time I started reading Blue Lock. I don't even think the spin-off manga was even out, so I couldn't get that impression of Rayo from that point. So I just got introduced to mean Rayo. You know, Rayo who was not the nicest of people, who was a rude, arrogant, rich boy. And like, that's not a solid first impression to make. It just simply is not. So don't get me wrong, it's not like he was introduced in the best of ways. But trust me, a bad introduction does not just slay a character for me. Far from it. In fact, a bad introduction can usually make me appreciate a character later. Like, heck, being completely real with you, Baro had a pretty bad introduction. Mainly because he was mostly an antagonist at that point, and of course he's going to be in an antagonistic light. But Baro turned around and became one of my favorite characters. Like, legitimately one of the biggest glow-ups in the entire series for how much I love his journey as a character so far, and how worried I am for him today. I wouldn't worry about him if I didn't care about him. But Rayo just had a negative introduction from rip. Entitled rich boy with a treasure complex with his own homie, yeah, that's not the best way to introduce yourself to me. But, you know, we can let it slide. Then we started to learn more about Rayo, how he had just started playing soccer recently, and how they had a spotless win record. Him and Nagi were kind of just Timothy Herners personified. And I was like, whoa, hold on now. That's pretty impressive. That's pretty crazy. I was liking the hype, the build-up, the respect. Okay, so I put a little bit of respect on Rayo's name. And then, like, and then it happened. Then I realized the kind of bond that Rayo and Nagi really had, and I just don't like it. Like, I'll be completely real with you. There is not, like, a concrete writing reason why I don't like this. I just don't like, how do I put it? Idolization to the point of, like, glazing isn't the appropriate word anymore. It is just meat writing. Like, straight up, the amount of munching, the amount of gargling that Rayo was doing on Nagi's meat really just separate me from the character. And maybe that's just because I don't like the idea of a relationship imbalance between friends. Because I think if you are friends with somebody, you are their equal, regardless of different levels of abilities, different levels of intelligence. If you're homies, you're equals. And Rayo just absolutely gargling on Nagi's meat was so just disgusting me. I don't know. I just wasn't into it. I have close friends. I have homies that I've known for longer than I have not known them. Like, legitimately, they've been in my life longer than they haven't been. And even I wouldn't glaze as much as Rayo was glazing. Forget a glazed donut. That might as well have been a Boston cream with how much glazing that Rayo was doing. Because he filled it up all the way from the inside. Like, straight up, Rayo early on revealed to me that he was the kind of guy who didn't necessarily have, like, a will of his own. Like, he did. Obviously, we get introduced to the idea that he wants to win the World Cup. He wants to prove himself. He wants to have this individuality. And the thing is, I like that, which is, it's so strange. I'll admit, you can definitely check it out in the live reactions. My general consensus on Rayo is very, very strange. But the idea of Rayo and his backstory is interesting to me. The idea that he was already kind of meant to walk a predetermined path. He just meant to become the next heir to the Mikage Corporation and just keep living as his parents did and keep doing what he's supposed to do. Sure, he was successful and everything else, but but for a path that was already set out for him, he didn't want to walk down that path. He wanted something on his own, something that didn't come easy to him, and something that didn't come easy to him seemed to be soccer and the idea of the World Cup. That was good. I like hearing stories about that. People who want to carve their own path in history and not just follow the path that was laid out for them. Sure, do I blame people who want to follow an easier path laid out for them? No! I know a majority of people would rather go down an easier path, and I even respect Rail for the fact that he went out of his way, disobeyed his father, and just said, no, I'm going to be my own man. I'm going to do this my own way. I'm going to succeed in the way that I want to succeed and not just follow your path. But the big issues that I have is the glazing, is the absolute slurpage, is the absolute gargling that Rail's doing on Nagi's meat. Like, he's literally bouncing on and doing tricks at this point. Like, and not at this point, legitimately all the way back then, the over-reliance on Nagi much more makes Rayo like an accessory to Nagi rather than his own character. And it's even pointed out multiple times as their dynamic, like straight up in the game with Team V versus Team Z, multiple characters are playing like, oh, Nagi, you can't do anything without Rayo. Oh, Rayo, you can't do anything without Nagi. You are failures as egotists. You can never do it. And like, I know that's the point of their characters are starting off at that point, and their development is sort of just based around that idea, but that doesn't mean I have to like it. And thusly, I just didn't. The over-reliance on Nagi, on Rails, and the admitted kind of over-reliance on Nagi. That's the thing. I need to make another Nagi video in order to talk about why I love Nagi and why he was my favorite character, because I did kind of spend the last Nagi video just clowning on the boy for regressing as a character. But for Rayo, it felt like he just wasn't going anywhere. Even after the loss to Team V, it just looked like he was broken. And after realizing that his perfect style of just giving Nagi the ball wasn't efficient enough, I thought we were going to have a dual-sided journey. A dual parallel journey of Nagi and Rayo, where both realize, you know, us playing soccer together is great. It's neat. We get the job done for the most part, but this obviously isn't the best for us. If a 10-man team could show up and absolutely dog walk us, okay, to be fair, they were not getting dog walked at all. In fact, TV was dog walking Team Z until Bachira. But still, if we can lose to a 10-man team, something's up. We got to cook individually. And I was perfectly fine with Nagi doing that. I was down for it. But the thing is, as any loyal meat muncher will tell you, it's hard to hop off somebody's meat. Like, legitimately, I've seen it before across multiple people, across multiple stations. It's hard to hop off meat that you've been riding for a bit. And Rayo was down so atrocious. Like, legitimately, Rayo was playing breakup song. And I'm not necessarily one to dive into shipping of any kind. Go watch Sarcastic Chorus for that. He does great breakdowns of all the different ships and all the different love interests for a bunch of different characters. That's his side. Me, I ain't down for that. But I ain't gonna lie to you, I feel like the subtext of Nagi and Rayo was not even subtext at that point. Rayo was obsessed with that man. And then, to be fair, it's okay. It's okay. Once again, this is not necessarily a strict writing problem. It's okay that Rayo's taking longer to develop. It's okay that he needs to be forced to go down that path. When Nagi abandons him, he kind of just holds that and he's sad about it. Because, of course, he's only been playing soccer for 6 months. He only views Nagi as the only proper key to achieving his dream of playing and winning the World Cup. It felt like he lost everything. And I can understand that, but it's just the glazing just didn't. It was so great. Like, legitimately, the fact that we go through this whole separate training arc for Rayo. We're watching Nagi and Isagi play together, obviously, but we're also seeing in the side, on the background, in the back burner, we have Kunigami, Chigiri, and Rayo all training up, all getting their gains up. But as Kunigami and Chigiri are like, yeah, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to succeed. We're going to catch up to Isagi. We're going to make him regret it by beating him. Rayo's like, yeah, we're going to beat him so I can hop right back on Nagi's meat. Like, come on now, bro. Like, is there anything else on your mind? Is there any, like, legitimately, and the crazy thing is, right, I'm talking about all this meat bunching and like it's a problem, and I do think it is. I do think this is a major weakness for Rayo's character, which we'll get into when we get to the more modern stuff for Rayo's character, or what we've seen as of recent. But trust me, I'm going to make a whole video on why I love Ness. And if you are caught up to the manga, you know exactly why Ness is an even greater meat muncher than Rayo, yet I still love him. So obviously it's not just the meat munching, it's how the meat munching is executed. And we see that after losing to Nagi, Isagi, and our boy Baro, what does Rayo say to Nagi? Not fine. You win. I'll get you next time. Not fine. Okay, you were just stronger than me. I'll become stronger on my own. Not fine. Okay, I just took the L. I'll keep it pushing. You didn't choose me, but it'd be like that sometimes. He literally tries to guilt trip Nagi into choosing him. And I don't know, like, I'm not a fan of gaslighting. like me personally, it's not a thing that I'm into. If you're into gaslighting, more power to you. Whether you do it, get it, whatever. But me personally, not the biggest fan of gaslighting. And also not the biggest fan of characters who refuse to be independent after it's been rammed down their throat, like someone else's meat, rammed down their throat to the point that they need to be independent. And we see that Nagi literally has to look Ryo dead in the face and be like, bruh, you are a pain. You suck absolutely meat. Like, legitimately, just hop off my meat. Like, legitimately, if we were to go into the subtext of the team, if we were to go into the subtext of that scene and really talk about subtext, essentially all Nagi told Ryo is, bro, hop off my meat. And Isagi even came in and wombo comboed with Ryo, and Nagi was like, yeah, you need to hop off his meat. You are choking on it, doing tricks on it, doing twists on it, doing splits on it. Stop it. What are you even doing here if you don't have an ego like that? Don't be the one who gets chosen. Be the one who gets to choose. Bam! Drop the whole bar on Ryo's head. And no, we're a solid, like, nearly halfway through the narrative at this point. Ryo has had many chapters since his introduction to develop just a teeny bit. Just a tiny bit. Just a little bit. But he has not. He has not. He is still the same entitled, meat-riding rich boy that he's been. So there's nothing that's been here to endear me to Ryo's character at this point. He has literally admitted that he's only just good at all the basics at this point. He doesn't have a unique weapon at this point. There's nothing fancy that he's done that's absolutely insane. Like, legitimately, bro has done nothing to entice me to his character at this point. So I'm just wondering, like, what are we doing? Like, is Ryo gonna go somewhere, or are we gonna chef up a little bit, like a little bit, or are we just stuck out of luck? And then we get to the next appearance of Ryo, when he decides to play with Nagi. And, like, here's the thing. I perfectly understand this part of the narrative. We see the main reason Ryo's introduced here is because Isagi is having conflict on whether or not he should play with Rin in third selection. And Ryo talks to him, and they have this whole conversation about, like, oh, if I don't play with him and understand his level of play now, he's just going to keep getting farther and farther away. So I need to play with him now so I'm ready and prepared for the future. And I was like, oh, okay, I like this angle. You aren't riding so much, you're just trying to catch up like any good player would. Like, okay, you understand that he's a better player than you right now. He's the top 6 and you're not, so you're going to follow close behind. Kind of like a mentor of sorts. Sure, is it still a pretty hefty amount of glazing? Yeah, but now you're just a regular glazed donut and not a whole French cruller. So that's fine. We can work with this. And then Ryo does something that I really, really like. Fun fact. Copy powers are probably my favorite thing like ever. I don't know. When you have a character in your verse that can copy abilities, I love it. Why? Because one, it shows your power system's diverse enough that people can use different abilities as long as they see them. And two, it just allows for new utilization of abilities in different scenarios. Like, one person may use a skill differently in a different situation than another person would. So even though it's fundamentally the same skill, the utilization can be different. That's why I like sort of generic things like Ki Blast, Ki Waves, stuff like that. Jutsu in Naruto with multiple people using various versions of jutsu, stuff like that. The versatility and viability of certain abilities are always interesting. So when you have a copy character, someone who can apply all of these things at once, at will, I think it's really, really neat. And Ryo has a really cool moment where he takes the gyro shot from Yukimaya and says, no, it's not your gyro shot, it's our gyro shot, and proceeds to score. That was pretty darn heat. I liked it. I was like, okay, we're cooking. He's reaching that level. He's leveling up. And then the mangaka specifically goes out of the way to have Isagi, arguably top 3, if not top 2, if not top 1 now, but top 2 or top 3 being generous, smartest people in Blue Light being like, okay, this copy weapon is cool and all, is great and all, is firing a little bit, but in reality, it's still got a long way to go before it's a viable weapon. And I was down with that. Okay, finally, we have something that Ryo can only do himself because of his build, because of his dexterity, because of his ability, because of his knowledge. It plays into the fact that he's new to the game, so he's not unique enough to develop something on his own. He doesn't have something unique biologically like Nagi, so he's using the copy powers. I like copy powers. He seems to grow on his own. He seems to understand that he can't just be meat munching all day. He's going to have to do something unique for himself, and he's going to develop in his own way. We finally started cooking with Reo like a solid 100 chapters in. And then we kept going. We kept growing. We kept cooking. When we finally got to see Reo in the U20. And even though he came in specifically as a defender, he came in defending pretty darn well. Shido was established as a monster, a beast, a demon. And what did Reo come in and do? He stole Aiku's tech. He stole the Doberman chart. He stole everything. He was copying things left and right. And I think that's beautiful. I think that's great. I think that's fantastic. The body wall, the Reo Nagi train station, sure. It's still a little bit of glazing, but we can appreciate a little bit of glazing. Like, sometimes I like a good glaze on the donut. Not over amounts of glaze. Don't drown it in sugar, but give me that nice little accent. Show these characters are now developing an interpersonal respect for each other, but still know that they need to develop individually and walk their own paths. Yes, I like this. We are developing Reo as a character. We are taking him down a path of success. He's evolving in his own way, and he's growing ever more by finally not just glazing Nagi, but glazing everybody. Perfect. I'm loving it. Let's see where this goes. Here's where the bad stuff starts to happen. So, we get to the end of the U20. They win, Blue Lock is evolved, and then we get to the Neo Egotist League. And we specifically have this little fancy point, this little neat, sweet interaction between Reo and Nagi, where Reo's like, well, shoot, just because of, the money, the strats, the status that you can get at England, that's a good investment. I'm going to go to England. I'm going to get my bread up. Once again, there was absolutely zero, absolutely negative Nagi glazing. There wasn't even a mention of Nagi. Reo made that choice first because of his own interest, his own background. I like that. Okay, we're cooking. And then I should have known. I should have synced it. I should have synced it because there was the tiniest bit of glazing. There was a little bit. There was a dollop. There was a dollop of glaze because when Nagi, off an old video, is like, yeah, I'm going to go to Manshine too because there's a guy who traps there. Okay. Reo points out, oh, Nagi, you're going where I'm going? And we see that Nagi, the developed character, at least at this point, the developed character was like, okay, yeah, I am going here, but what does that have to do with you, bruh? Like, you're already glazing everybody now. Don't start glazing me. Don't hop on my meat. Keep switching. Keep hopping and bouncing on everybody else's, and we can actually have a decent time. And that's what I thought, okay. We had a hint, a whiff, maybe a little bit of the glaze, but not so much glaze that I'm worried about it. All right, we can keep this. We can keep it moving. We can absolutely get it on and popping with Reo as his own independent character. We're rocking with this. I was good. I was down. I was Gucci with it. Perfect. This is working out just fine. Had me a little scared there for a second. This is working out just fine. And then the Manshine game starts, and I'm thinking, oh, yes. Yes, sir. Everyone's been developing off screen, and we got Reo out here proving himself to be... What is this? Me? Saying Reo, a character who I've never liked, being Himothy? Like showing up, robbing Isagi, pulling up, copying Rin and Sei at the same time, taking Ness, a not world class, but a high level player, and absolutely dookie it on him with a copy of Sei, hitting the smoothest, the cleanest, the finest of copies on Rin's own kick to try and score on Gagamaru, but Gagamaru the GOAT was like, nah, we ain't gonna do this, but still, even with that, we had bro proven that he was still growing on his own. Who did he try to copy? Who did he try to make the perfect fusion of? Not Nagi. Anything. Not Nagi plus anything. No, it was Rin and Sei. The two best players he had seen up to that point. That was smart. That was efficient. That was a good utilization of his body and his specs and his understanding of himself and his ability. That was perfect. We were doing good. He was on that development path. And sure, he even has the thought, he even mentions it. Yeah, the team's built around Nagi, but we were told as long as we have the chance to do our thing, we're allowed to do our thing. And that's why he tried to take that shot. And that's what I'm talking about. In the U20 game, he even mentions, I'm going to make my way off the defensive line. I'm going to prove myself as a worthy striker. I'm going to prove that I'm my own individual person. I may have to meet ride, but I don't just have to meet ride Nagi in order to achieve my dream. I can achieve my dream. It's not our dream. It's my dream. I can do that. And I'm liking Reo now. Obviously, it's getting pretty heat. And then the worst happens. Then the worst happens. For some reason, the Blue Lock mangaka is like, I've been doing a great job of developing these two characters down their own paths. I've been doing a fantastic job of this. I finally managed to drag Reo off Nagi's meat for long enough that it's an actual viable situation that we can work with here. Perfect. Wonderful. Juicy. But you know what? All that development, all that time we spent on making Nagi independent, all that time we spent on making Reo independent, all that time we spent on developing Reo into his own character, let's just undo it all. Let's just reset him. Let's just reset him right back to his introduction. When Nagi comes over and asks Reo for his help. Now, admittedly, when this first happened, I was, nettled, to say the very least. I think nettled's the kindest word I can put on that situation. But at first, I was a little bit like, okay, wait a second. It doesn't mean we have to go all the way back. We could hypothetically have a fantastic moment here where the roles are reversed. Reo asked Nagi, why didn't you pick me? Why didn't you choose me? Why didn't you come back to me, honey baby girl? I want to gargle on. I want to choke on. I want you to shove it in my nostrils. Like, legitimately, we could have had a reversal of that moment where Reo straight up hits Nagi with the, what? Brody, you straight up said before, you didn't want me. You didn't want to choose me. You said we need to go our own ways. So we're going our own ways right now. You and me today? Not really. You may be the core of this team. You may be what this team is built around, but I'm not gonna play for you because you taught me that I need to play for myself. So you play by yourself. We could have had that. It would have been the juiciest, smoothest, butteriest flip that let Nagi realize that, wait a second, I need to do it myself. I need to grow on my own. I need to keep developing. And it would have been a fantastic development for Reo because it would have been the culmination of what we've been building up to. Reo constantly has been getting that catnip. He's been whiffing at it, sniffing at it. The idea that he could just go back to the way things were, go back to the easy times. It was just him and Nagi playing for fun, having a good old time, reaching their dream together. And we could have had Reo flip it on Nagi. It would have been beautiful for both of their characters, and it would have been a culmination of their development and allowed them to go down their own different paths. But that didn't happen. Like an addict being reintroduced to the thing they are addicted to on their way to recovery, Reo fell back. And he fell back hard. He tried. I'll give him credit. He did try to attempt to flip it back on Nagi, to attempt to point out Nagi's hypocrisy, and to attempt to fight back against what he desired most. But Reo is ultimately human, and humans are fragile. So the moment, that life, the life he always dreamed of, the meat he always wanted to ride on, was poked up, ready and waiting for him, he hopped right back on it without hesitation. And he declared, with the biggest, dumbest grin on his face, he said, "Take me with you. This time, let me be a part of your dream until you become the best in the world. Let's play soccer." And I don't know why. I don't know, like, legitimately, from, like, how do I put this? Your characters do not always have to develop in a linear path. Do not get me wrong. They do not always have to develop within a linear path. In fact, some of my favorite characters ever develop wild and randomly. Like Sasuke Uchiha, one of my favorite characters, and in my opinion, solely my opinion, the greatest deuteragonist of all time. I have not read every single story ever, so I cannot say that he is in fact the greatest deuteragonist, but of the stories I've read, which isn't many, so once again, I'm not the most storied of sources, but in my opinion, the greatest deuteragonist of all time has one of the most random up, down, left, right, backwards, forwards, diagonal, crazy character arcs ever. But he's still my favorite deuteragonist of all time, and I think he's one of the best written. So what's the difference here with Reo? The difference is that I just don't like it. No. But the main thing is, I just don't get why. Like, notably, when I watched Sasuke and his journey, I could see the direction Kishimoto was going. Especially when certain major twists were occurring and stuff like that. I could definitely understand why Sasuke's trajectory would change massively. I could understand it. I could see the pathway. But with Ryo and Nagi and their specific dynamic, which once again will get its own proper video. This is mostly a Ryo video, even though I keep mentioning how he's munching all over Nagi. Specifically for Ryo's character, I don't get why you do this. Why would you undo all of this? Why? Especially when the layup was right there. When the layup to have these two characters continue down their independent paths was right there, and you teased us with it. You gave us the lick, the whiff, the taste of the idea that Ryo was starting to become his own person, developing his own modes, utilizing his weapon better for his own dream. But no, after developing his own independent consciousness, you now simply want him to be a part of Nagi's dream. And then Nagi's dream dies. Like, that's the thing. It would be one thing if through this regression, there was development. Nagi, after achieving this pseudo goal of an overarching goal, becoming the best in the world, did actually desire to become the best in the world. Like, this truly locked in Nagi's curiosity and his hunger for greatness. But as it's revealed, it did the exact opposite. Ryo, by allowing his own character to regress and to retreat back to the safe embrace of Nagi's arms, Ryo, by doing this, shot Nagi's ego in the face, and now it's bleeding out on the ground, and never mind, it's in a casket already. So it did that, and now Ryo's the one who still has his goal, but as he's already admitted, he wants to be a part of Nagi's dream, but Nagi's dream is dead. It's just straight up gone. Like, I don't know where. I guess that's my main thing with Ryo. I just don't know what the Blue Lock mangaka is doing with him. Just no idea. No idea. For the longest time, I thought I had a clue. I thought I had a whiff of a clue. And even if I didn't get the hype behind Ryo, because I know he is a fan favorite character for a lot of people, even if I've never got the hype behind it, I thought I could see the pathway. I thought I could see the light. But I can't see the light anymore. I'm just walking down this weird Twilight Road to Nightfall. Like, legitimately. On my Riku from KH1 type beat, I'm just walking in the darkness, so confused. Like, legitimately, what is Ryo supposed to be doing now? Because he's dragging along, essentially, an empty husk, which is Nagi, who already, quote-unquote, completed his goal, let his ego die, and is now nowhere near the person he wants to be. And Ryo's pushing all these ideas on him, and that's the thing, we're back where we started. In cases like Sasuke, in my opinion, never reverted back to ground zero. Absolute ground zero. Never happened. There are times when he got really close. Ooh, 5 Kage summoned Sasuke was something else. But like, there are times when we got really close where he honestly went past ground zero and he was like ground -5. But at least then I could still see the path. But Ryo and Nagi, by Ryo accepting Nagi in this scenario when Nagi asked for his support, just reset himself. Completely. Their dynamic is back to ground zero, where Ryo's the one pushing all these expectations on Nagi, and Nagi don't want to do it. What? Like, what? What are we cooking here? What is going on here? What are we cooking? Because I can smell it. I can smell what the Rock is cooking, but I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. I know there's something in the pot right now. There's something in the pot, but it smells rancid. It smells rancid, disgusting, and entirely unappetizing. So I don't know. Ryo is a character who has one of the most extensive and longest journeys towards independence, only to immediately give that all up at the drop of a hat, when the other person who he was entirely reliant on was wise enough previously to push him away, but the moment that little catnip was dangled in front of Ryo's face, he immediately dove for it. I don't know why. I just don't know why. Why do it now? Why do it when Ryo was starting to be his own person? Why do it when Ryo was growing into his own character? Why do it when Ryo was finally becoming an individual? Why just turn him back into a cog? And not in the interesting way. There are characters who are cogs that are 10 times the character Reo is. And if you know who I'm talking about, you know exactly who I'm talking about. But for Reo, it feels like a journey, the journey we've had up to this point, following Reo from being a person chasing a futile dream up into the man who became something close to independent, to have him fall back into the shadow of a man who doesn't even wish to be a light. I don't know what is next. And I'm afraid the Blue Lock mangaka doesn't know either. However, that's what I think. What do you guys think? Do you guys think I'm tripping? Do you think there's a very clear path for Reo to go down? Do you think this reversion to Ground Zeroes is just to have them build up in a new direction? Do you think this is destined to fail and we'll see these characters grow independently once again from this point? Please let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure that little notification bell to miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do a Patreon below, each more as low as $1 a month, exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off.